Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Cool Cars with Chris, the coolest show about the coolest cars of the coolest world, the coolest universe ever. I got courage. How you doing today, buddy?
All of the cools. Go for cool everything.
Well, you gotta feed the algorithm with cool talk. That's how it kind of works. That's how you get your show, to the number one on the charts. You got to mention its name like over and over again, so
Yeah.
that it kind of I guess kind of triggers the algorithm to kind of feed your show to those people. I mean, I'm just trying, dude. I'm spitballing here, man. I'm trying everything there is really bad.
We talk about it all the time. It's like all of the algorithm business and just how you get things out there and certain things that blow up and certain things that don't. It's still, I think it's still a mystery. And you just, the more you put stuff out there, the more you potentially get something to hook. So
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think I used to have this saying I used to always do when I was early in the podcasting career, even when I had podcasting audio. One thing I always would tell people would be I believe in the ABP rule. Now, the
mm,
ABP rule is
oh yeah,
always be posting.
yeah, hmm
Because if you don't post, I mean, you're hoping for the algorithm or something to kind of catch a wave. And sometimes that happens, but not always. And posting takes seconds. So who cares? Whatever. Literally like maybe a minute or two for something special you want to write down.
yeah.
But it doesn't hurt. I'm saying, feed the beast, I guess, as it were.
Yeah. One guy, used to see a lot was, just if you got to be like this, it's just like post and ghost. It's like,
Oh, that's one thing you don't want to. You want to
yeah,
post something and then never like people do is they call posting and ghosting. I guess when people post like crap out themselves. Usually it's like selfies and things like that.
yeah,
But they never ever comment or like or
but
anything on
good
anybody
point.
else's post at all. And
Yeah,
that bugs me. That it's like such narcissist behavior. It totally
yeah,
bugs me. Like, who do you think you are? Like you're too cool for school here. You can't like somebody else's post. It takes it's easier to like something than it is to post something.
yeah.
It takes less effort and less
It's a
time.
two-way street.
Well, usually it is with any kind of relationship or communication. I think that but some people think they're too big for their britches and they have to well, I'm just Mr. So-and-so, so I'm going to post and ghost and piss off and my fans are going to love me anyways because I'm famous or whatever. And that might work for a famous person, that comes on. I bet you most famous people, when they post on Instagram or whatever, they just dump whatever and then they take off and they get millions of likes and comments. It could be stupidest stuff ever, but because they're famous, that's what they got going for them. But
But how much more cool is it, because I see it, here and there where, somebody large following that you see when you actually see them reply to comments
oh,
and
dude,
engaging,
yeah.
that right there shows, okay, this means something more to you than, just the monetary or just the fame. It's like you actually are passionate about something enough to engage,
Well, it's like when I get I post something like a reel or whatever, and somebody shares that to their story. I always like it because you get the notifications that so and so shared it to their story. Whether you're
Yeah.
following them or not, whether they're a private account or not, you can still at least their post of your story. I always do that, and I know people do that when I post stuff of their stuff. I see that sometimes.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. It's just like a small thing to do, but it kind of means a little more than just posting and ghosting. I can't stand how
Mhm.
people do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but cool cars with Chris. And speaking of cool cars, I think that it's a dying age. It's a dying thing in cars is the manual transmission.
Yeah.
And I grew up only driving manual transmissions. In fact,
Your first, your
yeah.
first, yeah. Wow. Okay.
I never even learned how to drive. It's funny. I took the test in the automatic for the DMV because I figured it'd be easier to even though I failed that, it didn't matter. But I think that I was given my first vehicle was my parents had an old hand-me-down Mitsubishi Mighty Max pickup truck. Now it looks like either a combination Nissan Toyota pickup truck. This is before the Tacomas and the Frontiers and Range. Well, Ranger was around back then, but
Yeah.
this was it was a 1986 or 87. And my
Yeah.
dad brought it brand new for literally $5,000, brand new.
brand new for back then.
Right,
Even
right.
is still like a feat.
It was. I think it would cost less than the Toyotas. Toyotas wanted more for theirs. Maybe Nissan wanted more too, but he jumped on the Mitsubishi because it was like, a pickup truck. They advertised it had the same kind of stuff, and it was $5,000 or whatever it was. And so
I actually just looked these up too. I was looking up over here. These are actually cool little looking trucks. I kind of like that look.
yeah, and even today though, it might even sell today for $5,000.
Yeah,
on the used market. So it was silver. It had so many miles, but Dad drove that thing to death before I got it. It was a 5-speed manual, no power steering, by the way. It had custom AC that was installed after the fact. By the way, when you have to aftermarket your air conditioning, it's like a bare bones vehicle. It had nothing. And then it had not even a bumper. It had no bumper either. I remember that. And it had a tape deck radio. I think it even had, that was like an aftermarket thing. My dad bought a swap meet for $5 or whatever, super aftermarket junk. Anyways, I had that. That was the vehicle I had when I got my license when I was 16. So I was a 5-speed. I had to learn how to drive it. And I think I did okay driving the thing, figuring it out. But it was tricky figuring it out. But I think for me, driving a stick shift, the first vehicle that I guess you would consider learning how to operate a clutch was probably a garden tractor. We had one of those ride-along tractors, and it had a shifter on it, but there was no gas pedal. So you'd shift it in the first, and then you'd let the clutch out slowly. But you put it in the second and do the process all over again. It would do the same thing, but take off a little faster. In third, and I think it might have been third. I don't think it was a fourth. But that's kind of, I got the idea of figuring out how to use a clutch.
Yeah. But it's funny you mention that because that, when we get into it, but that's how I've started to kind of, when people ask me about it, what's the trick is you really kind of understand the clutch movement, that takes care of most of it. Once you get comfortable, you understand the balance between throttle and clutch and how to accelerate faster and different things like that. But on the front end, it's if you really understand the clutch of the particular car you're driving and where it grabs and how fast or slow you need to let it out when it starts to grab, that's the biggest part of the battle, I feel like. I remember, just because you were sharing early stories, my I didn't learn first on a manual. I kind of wish I did, but I've been driving for probably 6 or 7 months, with my learner's permit. And my aunt, she had a Nissan Stanza, if you remember those. It was the late 80s,
was it real
still boxy.
I'm thinking of the Toyota Cressida. I'm thinking of.
It was pretty similar to that. Or if you remember the Maximas of that generation, they were also really boxy. I actually really loved the look of those. But the Stanza was really the real compact tier of that car. Not a lot of features, everything like that, but it was a manual. And I remember she was you want to learn how to drive a manual? You're always playing these games and everything, you really want to learn. And I'm all right, I'm down, let's do it. And so she, took me around the corner probably 2 or 3 times, with her in the car, kind of coaching me through it, let me stall it out. And then literally the third time around, she was okay, park on the side of the road. She got out the car and said, all right, you go for it and learn. And I'm on public roads, learning how to drive manual. And the first time taking off, I'm just nervous, palm sweaty.
You weren't on a hill, were you?
No. We luckily, it was pretty flat, flat area where we were. But I was still I had to negotiate, making a turn onto the main street and make the loop and come back around the neighborhood. But after 2 or 3 times doing it on my own, it was down. It was,
nice.
I would call her every few weeks, hey, can I, because I didn't have a manual car at the time. I would learn and then go back to driving an automatic again. But it was, I would call her up, hey, can I practice some more in the car? And, after a while, it was it was second nature. It's crazy how you can go from just not using your left foot for pretty much anything.
Right. Right. Or you only drive a manual and then you go into an automatic and you reach for the clutch.
What do I do with my left foot?
I would, because at work we had automatic trucks and then we switched to manuals and back to automatics, and we had a few of me. We kind of went back and forth. We're on automatics right now, but we had manuals before, and then you get used to driving one and then you try to drive the other. You either reach for the clutch or reach for the shifter, or there's no shifter because it's automatic or whatever and stuff like that. So it does kind of throw you off sometimes when you go back and forth. Your muscle memory kind of kicks in a lot, I think, too. And I remember when the first time I had only really owned manual transmission vehicles most of my life, which is kind of weird to think about because they really don't exist much anymore. And so my first truck was the Mitsubishi, and then I bought my own truck, which was a Ford Ranger Splash. That was a manual 5-speed. And then I got the Mercury Cougar, which was the coupe, that was a 5-speed.
Yeah.
And then I got my Nissan Frontier pickup truck, and that was a 6-speed with a VQ engine in there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that the thing when I bought it, the guy was telling me, it's careful, it's like a hot rod, it's like warning me because it has a VQ engine in there, the VQ out of the Z. What's it, 4-liter version, and the 6-speed, and as a truck, it's not really big. It was just a king cab, which wasn't like the extra cab, the big one. It's only mid-size ish, it wasn't like F-150 size, which is kind of funny.
It was rear-wheel drive though, only.
Well, yeah, it's a pickup truck, yeah. So it wasn't
the Mexican GTR four-wheel drive kind of deal.
No. But the funny thing is that when I bought it, it had 265 horsepower.
Wow.
And in a truck, and like a smaller compact truck in a stick shift, I was like, hell yeah. That's like a little hot rod, And that's why the guy told me that when the salesman told me, like, this is like a hot rod, be careful, because it had 265 horsepower in a smaller truck. And might I remind you that the Ford F-150 at the time in their V8 didn't have that kind of power.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, wow. And that's why I got kind of drawn to that. And that's why I kind of fell in love with the VQ platform, because even back then it was cranking great numbers, like V8 kind of numbers out of a V6. And so, but that was also a stick shift, And so I drove that. But my first like automatic that I actually bought and owned was my last Ford F-150 pickup truck, because they don't make those in the stick.
Yeah.
And so, which I don't think they do. And so, yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they do. I don't think you can get a new F-150 in a stick shift. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
And so that was my first.
And who really is getting them at the this day and age anyway? Even if they did offer it, that would. Well,
it'd probably be total base work truck, like kind of deal. That's the only thing I can think of. Even though, like our at my work we had this old like shop truck. It must have been from like the 90s or something. It was an old GMC shop truck, like full size truck, but like just a regular cab, not like a king cab or crew cab, just a regular plain cab. But it was like the full size, like the 1500 size or whatever. But it was a stick shift. And so, but it had a weird gearing ratio, I remember, because it felt like it was very highly geared. So when you put it in first, it felt like it was wanting to keep on going before you shifted, if that makes sense. It didn't want to feel like a lot of torque at the low end. I don't know. But yeah, like
it's more revvy than it was.
Yeah, I don't think it had an RPM torque gauge either. I think it was just regular. It was so basic. It just had the speedometer kind of deal. And but yeah, the F-150 was my very first like automatic that I owned, and it's weird. It took a little while for me to get used to that because I also used to driving stick shifts. I also the size of the vehicle too, because before then going from a smaller truck to an F-150, it was a little getting used to the size of the vehicle and parking and backing and things like that. Like it's a little trickier to do. But then I realized when I drive big trucks for work, I should be okay. But it was kind of a neat experience,
It was an adjustment in the opposite direction, I feel like, than a lot of people. Like a lot of people start automatics and then they get into this world of manual and they get used to that. But you're car enthusiast true and true. Manual all the way up until, and now like still in the game with the Z. And
that's right. I shopped around for a manual. I did not want to get an automatic. My last Z, the Z I had before, it was funny because I skipped. I had the Nissan with the stick shift, and then I went to the automatic F-150 for years, and then I think I had the truck for about 5 or 7 years, maybe 6, 7, about 8 years, maybe 7, 8 years, and then I get into the Z stick shift, and I thought like, well, it's been a while since I've driven a stick shift, 7 years or so. like in a car. So maybe, but it literally like, it was like riding a bike. It just like came back like it was no big deal. And then I was whipping it around town and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, okay, I get it, you know? And the same thing with the last one I just bought. Like it's been probably a hot minute. Well, let's see. I sold the other Z probably in 22, 23. We're in 2026. So maybe what, 3 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's still like, even if you have that gap, a time gap like that, it's still like no big deal. You know, getting back on the thing. You usually remember, I mean, not all clutches are the same. Not all shifters are the same. I remember I drove that 350Z. It was very notchy and very it felt like it, I guess notchiness is really the word I can think of when I put it into gear. The clutch felt fine from what I remember driving it and everything was just super notchy to get into gear. I've never driven your car yet. Wink, wink. I would love to. You know,
yeah, man, I'm down. I'm down that I'm on this kick and teaching people how to drive manual. I'm
you
down.
let people drive your car. That's like the carnal like sin for cool cars is like you can't let anybody just drive your car. Like give it other than the valet. But okay, so who do you
know? Those are the people you avoid driving your car.
Well, dude, check this out. So I was going to the airport one time, and the Uber driver said he worked valet at the casino. And I just asked the guy. I thought about this because like I have a stick shift, right? And I'm thinking like there's some times I'm taking the car, you taking your car to the shop and they can't find anybody to drive it around the building because, nobody, you know, right? So I'd be thinking like, I mean, you got to be able to like drive a stick shift if you work valet. I mean, right? He says, yeah, it's kind of required.
Yeah.
I would think. But that's the thing too. I was like wondering like how many people actually could drive a stick shift, probably can't even work valet.
Yeah.
You know, they probably don't see a lot of stick shift either though. They probably see like one for every 100 cars. Maybe. I mean, I worked valet for like about a year or so when I was in college, and it was definitely far and few between when you did get a manual. I worked at a hotel like over in Mission Bay area. Look, you high roller courage,
sort of, but yeah, I wish. But most of the time you're getting like families on vacation. And,
the minivan,
you know, minivans, SUVs, like. You know, there was one time though, there was a guy who came with like a super souped up Mustang. I don't remember what year, what gen or whatever. And it was a stick shift, but it was modified. And so it had a really heavy clutch. And he had it, they kind of had it parked. They didn't park it in the garage. They just parked it further back in the driveway so that, you know, folks wouldn't, you know, have to go around it. And obviously like the guy came up and I was so excited to get behind the wheel. I was like, all right, I'll bring it up for you. I was not prepared for just, again, how grabby the clutch was and like, you know, how if you let it out.
Did he do the jumpy thing? Where it's like jump?
I literally did the jump thing right up until we got to him.
Oh, no.
And then it stalled out right there.
Oh,
and
man.
He was so cool about it, but it was definitely a really embarrassing deal for me, for sure. Oh,
for sure, man, for sure. Like, that's the thing I was kind of wondering about these valet guys, if they can drive a stick or not, you know? And I don't think I've taken the Z to valet, now that I think about it. I don't think I have. Have you taken your car to valet?
So there was one time where I had to, because it was one work event that I had to go to in San Diego. It was right by Petco Park. And their garage is kind of off-site. Their parking is off-site from the hotel. So yeah, that was the one time where they've, you know, valeted, and it was cool, like getting a chance to like, because you could hear them like start up the car from far away. And,
dude,
like,
it's cool, dude. I remember when in my truck, I take my truck to like wherever or valet or wherever and that kind of stuff. And they take off with it and they hear the sound of the engine and the exhaust and all that. Like it sounds pretty cool. It's like standing back here and have it take off and stuff. And even with the Z too, I took the Z to the shop. I remember a couple of times I had that battery issue, and they pulled it into the shop, and I could hear it. And even when they pulled it out of the exhaust bay, when doing the exhaust work on it, I could hear it there, and that kind of it's almost like an out of body experience.
for a car person, it is like. I remember when I got the exhaust done on both when I had the 300ZX and when I did it on the M. It was like just to hear it when it started up was like, you know, you just feel like it's just an extension. You're seeing yourself from the outside, but it's your car. And yeah, it's a special thing for car guys when they get a new exhaust.
So you said that you let people drive your car in the stick shift. First off, do these people know how to drive a stick shift?
So the two that I've had recently, they have no prior experience of manual driving.
You
Which,
are brave, man. Courage is
call me courage for a reason.
real. For real.
You gotta put it to the test at some point. But
yeah. So you were teaching people how to drive a stick, and your stick was the one to do it on.
Yes, sir. Yep. And I tell people like it's a lot of times it's, because the clutch in the end is pretty light. Like it's, at the end of the day, like some of the base stuff is it's still a small compact car. And so it has a pretty light clutch.
I figured it would be. Yeah.
Like the Z's clutch was a little bit different. It was definitely a lot. My 300ZX's clutch was a lot more linear. And so, it was, in a sense, it was easier because you just kind of gradually, as you let out, you knew like the car was going to gradually lurch forward. With the N, it's like I always like describe it as like there's a lot of nothing until you get to a lot of nothing where you can like kind of just go back and forth in the clutch and you're not getting any movement. But then there's a point where it starts to grab and the revs actually kind of bump up a little bit because it's trying to avoid stalling. But
really,
it's a good indicator of when the clutch is going to grab. And so it's been actually a really, cool car to teach people on because there's like little indicators to teach people to like, okay, this is where you should start kind of letting the clutch out slowly and let it coast. And one thing that gives me so much peace of mind when I'm teaching people is that now I tell people don't use the throttle at all on the first, like when you're first getting used to it.
So if you let the clutch out, it won't stall on you?
So you have to do it pretty slowly. Like if you just went straight out, obviously you're going to buck and you're going to stall.
Okay.
But what I usually tell them is like, let it up slowly. And then, like I said, they'll kind of hear that audible where the revs start to come up. And I tell them that means that the clutch is grabbing. So now slowly let it out. And if you let it out slow enough, the car will get its own momentum going. You don't have to use any throttle and that'll get you moving. And I say once you're completely off the clutch, then you can start to use the throttle and usually we'll just go in like circles around a parking lot, something like that. And so for me, like it's peace of mind because you're not getting a situation where somebody's going to burn your clutch because they don't know how to feather the throttle, but not like keep the clutch down. So it seems to be a pretty good success rate of not breaking my car, teaching people how to drive manual.
This got me thinking that Courage himself over here needs to start his own business, his own learn how to drive. He's got teaching kids how to drive cars normally. There's got to be one for stick shifts. I'm sure there probably
just particularly for that.
There probably is. If you Google it, I'm sure there is. People that do offer this service. Yep. I would think you have to have. I mean, for me, if I was going to do this, I would have to have like not like a cool car. It'd be like whatever I could find in a stick shift. In fact, I was looking at like Mazda 3s are available in stick shift. I don't know how good they are. Ford Fiesta had a stick shift, I think. Something of those that range, maybe in a stick.
Old Ford Focuses, like
if you can find them a stick shift and make sure the clutch is like in decent shape for the most part, because they're gonna be beat up probably if it's teaching up and stuff like that. But if you can find something like that, or even an old like Nissan or Toyota pickup truck or something like that, if those are available, something like that. Just to teach people how to drive a stick shift. I think when you got the video game thing, because the guy who bought my car said he was learning on a video game.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Yeah, but I don't think you quite the same feel. You don't get the same kind of clutch engagement and the feel of the clutch. You don't get that feedback from the shifter in the clutch when it comes out and using the throttle. You don't get that on a video game. I don't think you do, unless it's one of those fancy simulators. But
the real sims can kind of start to mimic it, but it's still nothing replaces real life for sure.
Right. It's like learning how to like play the guitar, like using
Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero, right? Right. It's like I play the guitar. Let's push the buttons or whatever kind of thing. Yeah. Not quite the same, but okay.
Yeah. So a little spoiler, I do have my next video is actually going to be, my if you don't know how to drive manual, watch this type video.
There you go. That's how you got to do it. But
keep an eye out for that.
But I think though, seriously, you might be on something. If you can do this and find a car that's like in a stick shift, that you got to get a clutch and whatever you got to do to the thing. And I don't know what that'd be worth charging. I mean, my son is going through driving classes right now, and for a 2-hour session, I just paid $175.
Oh, okay. And this is full on like driving like with somebody like
yeah. The car I guess had the brake pedal on the passenger side.
Yeah, the double
or whatever, and that kind of it probably has driver training written all over the thing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and but most of them are like 6 lessons for $400 to $500. If you want to do individual lessons, they charge a little bit more. We just did the individual lessons because he's required to get like a minimum 2-hour lesson before he even can drive with one of us. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought he could drive right away, but I guess not. And so, but I was going to be thinking about, like you said, with teaching people how to drive a stick shift, that maybe it could be a nice little side hustle.
Maybe something there, yeah. No, you'd be, you had a cheap car that you weren't that worried about, burning the clutch, and it'd be easy to replace.
If you book like say a handful of people, it pays for itself, pays for the car.
It eventually, yeah. Who knows? I mean, shoot, with the time constraint, my biggest thing is like having to drive to people and do all of that.
Pick them up, whatever.
Yeah, and all of that. But if you get somebody that's wild,
I would have some rules though. Like you have had your license for a while. Like you're not like a brand new driver.
That's a good point. Yeah,
your own insurance and whatever, and blah blah blah, whatever and stuff. And you probably do the parking lot thing like you're doing or whatever. Like lesson 1 is like $200 and you got to circle the parking lot a bunch of times or whatever. Yeah. And just figure that out. And then hills and
start thinking,
that kind of stuff or whatever. Because I think the thing is too, the fact that like there isn't as many cars that are stick shift. There are some out there, but not as many like
as a brand new car.
Right. Like, and it's funny is that the stick shifts back when I was younger were like the cheapy version of the car was the stick shift. If the luxury version was the automatic. Yeah. That came with pickup trucks.
Automatics were the option. Like your manual was like the stand. Like that's what they call. A lot of times they call it standard because that was like this is standard equipment. Automatic was what you were paying extra for it. And it's crazy now that like it's at least for enthusiasts, like it's the reverse. It's like if a car offers a manual, like they'll pay a premium for the manual versus the automatic.
But I wonder as you get older, because I'm getting older now, I'm thinking that like if you get older, I wonder if going automatic makes more sense from like a usability standpoint, like traffic and like just put it in D and just like cruise around and not to like think about it and stuff. I know it takes away the fun of it all, but like if you're going to daily your car versus like just a fun special type of car,
Yeah. I definitely think it depends. Like, if you live in like say LA and you're commuting every day, like, and you're I mean, really not even commute. Like if you just need to go anywhere in LA every day, like, that tends to, lean towards, like if you are starting to get older and, again, it does get taxing, especially again, if you had a car with more like a heavier clutch where you're like getting a workout every time you drive it around, like start to kind of, look towards, the automatics. And now, I mean, we have like these dual clutch, transmissions that.
Well, they're automatics though.
They're automatic still, but they shift faster than any manual can. Like, again, I know that's not the main reason why people buy it.
You can hold the gear.
You can hold gears.
Yeah, you can shift down, shift up, shift, and hold the gear. Hell, even my truck can do that. My truck doesn't have a dual clutch transmission, but it's got a plus and minus, and I can literally my other truck did the same thing. In fact, when I first got the other truck, since I came off a stick shift, I was so used to having a stick shift, I literally would like pretend I had a stick shift in my other truck. I even mimic like shifting, and I would like push the buttons up and down plus for like shifting. And
I'm like one of the only people because the M has that too. It has the Tiptronic with the rev match downshift, and I drive that car. It actually has a rev matching downshifts too, and so I drive it like that all the time. And I tell people all the time, I'm probably one of the only people that like drives this car like that, but. Because like just having a little bit more of that engagement, even in and of itself, just adds to a drive and stuff like that.
It does, and I think that if you can get all that with an automatic, like with the paddle shifters and all that kind of stuff, and I can see why people just get the automatics. Even the Z version of my car has a 7-speed automatic, which sounds nuts. Why they have 7 gears, I don't know. Yeah. But
talk about a 9 and 10 speeds.
The new one I think is 9. The new one is 9, I believe. And so if you're paddle shifting through that, you're just like shift. And I mean, whatever, I guess, it's like it's like the old meme of the Fast and Furious shift knob. It's like at 20 gears or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the movies are constantly shifting and every scene they're moving back and forth. And so, but I don't know, man. I mean, I guess I'd have to like get in an automatic with paddle shifters and system like that. And I don't
Kind of
know.
experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean,
But knowing your background, man, I I kind of understand why, like, it's kind of in your blood because you've run the gambit, pretty much having every car that you've had been a manual. Like, I didn't know that, and so I can see it, and it was for me. I hadn't had one for probably about 5 or 6
so how did
years.
you learn how to drive a stick shift? Like, when did that happen for you, and how'd that happen?
Yeah, that was that was this. Yeah, I was like
And what was your first-
17 or so. Yeah.
So, what was your first car that you drove as your daily with a stick shift? With the Z?
Yep, the Z was the
Okay,
first.
okay, that's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So the Z was your first stick shift. Okay. And
Yeah.
now you bought that car. Were you looking for stick shifts, or you just happened to have a stick shift?
That's a good question. I definitely was probably on that kick, of wanting a manual. But I was
But you
I was
because you
very
just learned how to drive
specifically.
one though, so you were like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
at that time, like, there was a big gap. Like, when I moved here to San Diego, when I went to school, like, I didn't have a car, and I was riding around on. But I had this like red and yellow, like mustard colored bike that I was like riding around and catching buses and stuff. And there was a certain point where I was like, this ain't it. Like, I need I need
Well, I
something.
think
need
if you
a
live
car.
in California, for the most part, even in the major cities, like especially LA or whatever, I mean, you can do public transportation, you can do the systems and the whatever, all that kind of stuff. But I just think there's something to having a vehicle, like freedom, being able to go wherever you want, not requiring a bus schedule or catch this link here to this station there and jump this and jump that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's something to it. And I think it's why people have cars, for the most part. Otherwise, I mean, get around. And there's something to do with the freedom of it all, too, because I think if you're relying on the bus system or whatever, you kind of like to their system, you're kind of relying on their rules and, their schedule. And
I mean, I'm gonna sound real crazy here, but I even feel the same way about plane travel, to be totally honest. Like,
Well, yeah,
there's certain instances where you have to. Like, there's, but if you're going out of state, I mean, honestly, well, there's even situations where you can drive that. Like, if you're going to Arizona or something, I'll drive 5 hours to go to Arizona or something like that. It's like, because with flying, like, it really is that too, where it's like you got to be on their schedule.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You,
and if
you'll
they're
be
delayed
stuck in an airport. Yeah, you're stuck in an airport forever because they're experiencing delays, and when you're in the air, you're totally in somebody else's hands in terms of that deal.
But dude,
and so
being in the air, I heard is like so easy on airplanes. I heard being in the air is like they use a fraction of like their like power or gas or whatever they use
when they're at their cruise altitude.
Right. It's like it's like nothing. But when they're like landing and taking off is when they use all the. That's why I see a lot of the issues with plane accidents are usually during takeoff and landing.
Yep.
When they're just flying it, just cruising in the air for just flying for nothing, it's like no big deal or whatever. That's
just
why
a bird. Yeah,
yeah,
you're just a bird flying.
That's it, pretty much. But dude, like I love stick shifts, and I know that there are not a lot of companies like offering stick shifts for vehicles. But do you know which companies, like today, 2026, are actually offering stick shifts as an option, at least in their fleet at all, or anything?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's some, and we'll maybe get to some, because I think personally you just got to go to the older cars, like you just
I'm saying
you got to
like,
go blast to the past. But
of course, but like if you want to like buy something new today, because people want new cars, they want the reliability and they want something new, I guess. So if you want to buy a new car today with a stick shift, what are your options?
Yeah, no, I mean they're dwindling a lot, but there's I'll maybe even go in tiers, but obviously, like I said, the in cars they offer that. Really, we only have one in car now, but
there's no more Veloster and
there's no more Veloster.
And what else did you guys have? I say you guys, I guess your company.
Yeah, these guys. But yeah, actually, really, in terms of manual cars that they offered, it was only the Veloster and the Elantra N. Well,
what's an automatic? I mean, what's that electric version of N? What is
the
it?
Ionics.
Okay, that doesn't count, right? Because it's not like a.
But it does have. I mean, it has paddle shifters, but it does have, even though it's electric, it does have those simulated gear shifts.
Yeah.
Of like having like a red line that you can bounce off of, and
But yeah,
as
but
much
even
of
though
it,
your red line is actually digital, though, it's like a digital.
it's all fake. It's like, it's such a gimmick. But a lot of people have said like they've taken those on track because it's said to be one of like the most engaging performance EVs out there, which you probably think that that's an oxymoron to even
No,
say.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I mean, I remember seeing when the Ford Mach E like was being announced and came out, they made like a race version of it. Did you see it? It was like 1,200 or 1,500 horsepower, some nuts, and there's just smoke in the tires, like
and you could hear the motors like when they wind up. And everything. Yeah. And they've had some. I mean, they've done a lot of track events and track testing with the Ioniqs, and some reviewers have said that like after 2 or 3 laps of like using the fake simulated gears, and like hearing because it goes through the rev range just like a regular car does.
What it sounds
they started
like,
to forget. Yeah, they started to forget that it was an EV because it's so cohesive and it like operates the same way. It even like when you downshift, say if you were like going full speed and you start downshifting and before you should, like it'll actually start to give you that resistance that it does if you go into the wrong gear in a manual car.
All the technology it requires to go back in time to like old technology.
Yes. We're using that effort to take us back, which is
it'd be like
hilarious.
It'd be like an iPhone trying to mimic a rotary phone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we do got a few though. Like I mean, on your camp, Ford, obviously, we still got the Mustang. Like that's still in production.
But it's funny. At the dealership, I didn't see a lot of them available that were stick. Well, maybe I did. I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe the Dark Horse might have been one.
Mm-hmm.
But even some of
those,
the
base GTs and
yeah, but a lot of times these dealerships, that's why you don't see a lot of these dealerships. They order
what they have in inventory.
Yeah, they order the automatics. They know they'll sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially with the Zs, I was looking for I'm sorry, it's not called 370 anymore. Now it's called regular Z. Yeah. I was looking for Zs and all automatics. If you look online for Z cars in the area at the local dealerships, they got them, but they're all automatic.
Pretty hard to find, especially because they for a while they didn't have, they didn't have one, and where it was only on like the base model was the manual, and then they had the automatic. They just now have started to do those. I think the Nismo is still automatic only.
No, I thought they came out with a.
Did they come out with the?
They announced it, but I don't know if it's like actually like you can buy one. I have no idea. And I've heard some not say bad things, but I've heard some like people are starting to like lean more towards the 370 because of the organic feel to the engine and the whole car versus like the more modern like turbo tech of the new one.
Yeah.
But to each their own. So you got
one of the big ones though. Miatas and BRZ GT86, whatever, those are like in terms of performance cars with the manual, like rear wheel drive. Like those tick so many boxes. Even the Supras. Like,
can you get those in automatic? I'm sure you can get anything in automatic, but I haven't.
You can get automatic. Yeah, you can get automatic GT86s.
I have to look that up and wonder if like how many are available in automatic. Because a car like that, I would think now from a dealership standpoint, they want to sell cars. They don't care, right? Mm-hmm. But I just wonder if because they have to order those for their inventory to sell them. Yeah. So I wonder if they're ordering more sticks in those cars, especially like the Miatas. I can't imagine an automatic Miata.
An automatic Miata is not something that
I'm sure it exists though.
It exists, but it should. Yeah,
it's something that people buy, but I don't. I mean, like I said, you get automatic in anything. I remember a long time ago when I first heard the Mustang. One of the years the Mustang GT came out, and they had an automatic version. I think they always had it, but I remember hearing about it. And a friend of mine was saying he wanted to get one in automatic. And I almost like slapped him silly. I was like, what are you talking about? Automatic and a Mustang? You're nuts. You're talking crazy. Oh, just be, it's cruiser, it's fun, it's a V8, whatever, and all this stuff. But I'm like,
get a different car, man.
I don't know, man. Like, see, I've always had stick shift. So I'm like, I just couldn't imagine. I just couldn't fathom having.
He told that to the wrong person.
Right. I just couldn't fathom having like an automatic in like a cool car. But this is back then. But now with the dual clutch transmissions and
or even like the auto, because in the Mustang now with that 10 speed that they have in there, which I believe, and again, we talked about this where it's like take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is Cool Cars or Chris. I don't endorse all of what comes out of my mouth, but I think it was
warning label at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, just put that like up when I start saying anything. But I think GM and Ford actually had some co-development in that 10-speed that they use in the Mustang, and then they were using it in the Camaro too as well.
And my truck has it too.
Yeah, but they're like, after a certain point, like when I'm sure like as you shift past like 6th gear, like it's all like the ratios are so tight between
they move so quickly because on mine I can tell you what gear you're in, and it's just like you're cruising along and it's like it goes and then it kind of goes up and then all of a sudden it just goes right through the middle range.
Yeah,
and next you're like in 10th gear and you're just cruising at like 40 or whatever, what it is. So it's like it kind of goes through. It's probably more for like towing and
and fuel economy and
maybe. That's probably why I got. It's funny. Speaking of fuel economy, my truck got literally 1 mile better per gallon versus my last 5.0 V8. And this one is like 1 mile per gallon. And I think it has to do with the 10-speed. The 10-speed gave it 1 more mile per gallon.
Yeah.
than before or whatever. But
that helps. But no, I mean, it's the one thing I was going to say about that is they shift so like they've really been able to tune automatic, like not even dual clutch automatics, but just regular torque converter automatics. They've really started to be able to tune those because obviously you remember old automatics, especially old GM automatics, where you would shift and it would just take days for it to go, say, from like 2nd to 3rd. Like you would get that rev hang as it's shifting through gears, kind of thing.
Are you talking like a 3-speed automatic, like way back in the day?
No, I mean even with my car, even with the M, when I drive it in, like when I'm just in drive and not doing like the upshifts and downshifts, like there's a way that like older automatics how they change gear that was like a lot different from like newer automatics that
the newer ones have like the 10-speed, the 9-speed. They have to go through them quicker because they have so many gears to get through. It's like we had to get to the 10th gear right away because we're cruising on the highway now. But we're gonna go through all the gears really quick. I don't know I don't know if it skips gears or not. I haven't really paid that close attention. It might, but I don't think it does. I don't think so.
Probably just a real like quick snap through. And at the end of the day though, like I said, I think they have their place and they're definitely different than what they were before. But I mean, it just for the enjoyment for again as a car enthusiast, and honestly I'm seeing like people that aren't even car enthusiasts. The guy that I taught, John, like he's not really into cars that much. Like he watches Initial D and he likes the AE86 and stuff like that, but he's not like that in the cars. But I could just tell how excited he got, after he got it and like figured out, how to go through the gears. Like I'm telling you, like I'll probably start running into him now. Like he's like talking cars with me. He already said, "Hey, can I go to the next Cars and Coffee with you?" Like I see this as a gateway to get some more car enthusiasts in the mix. I know.
You'd be shopping for Toyota 86s.
Yeah.
Or Miatas. I heard the clutch in the Miata is incredibly easy to use. I've heard a lot of people say that. I haven't driven one in a long time. I was looking to buy one, so I did a few test drives back a long time ago. And I don't remember much different about it. Like it just felt like a normal like stick shift car to me, back then. It didn't feel odd or anything, but I heard they've probably been improved since then and they're like really easy to use. Like they say like of all the stick shifts, like that one's like super, super easy to use and drive. It's so effortless. You just shift it like it's nothing or whatever. Yeah. So far as newer cars, you got the new Z, the Miatas, the Toyota 86s, the Mustangs, Camaro's gone.
You can get into the higher power, the more expensive stuff. You can get BMWs, you can get M cars with manuals. How
about AMG, Mercedes?
That I don't think so. Like because the AMG, like the GTs, like their sports cars and stuff, I don't think you can't get those in the manual. Those are automatic only. None of the like sports sedans, the AMGs, I don't think you can get manuals either. So I think that they've kind of gone the wayside when it comes to.
How about Audi? You think Audi's got the automatic probably?
Yeah. I mean, maybe some of the RS stuff potentially. But most of the time, like you said, like, you go into a dealer, like if you were to see any of those spec'd as a manual, that's like a unicorn amongst what they're probably ordering. So,
right. Yeah, that's what it comes down to, I think, is that dealers need to sell cars, obviously. That's their business. And they know that, like, if 9 out of 10 people are going to buy the automatic version of said car, chances are they're going to order more automatics.
Yeah.
Just the numbers game alone, you know? And then, so if you wanted to buy a manual version of, say, like the Z, you probably have to go through like special ordering or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe pay a surcharge or upcharge or whatever they charge, you know, or something just to get the basic model. Just get the base car or whatever kind of thing.
To get the benefit of like newer car and manual, like, you know, you're probably paying a premium, but your choices are definitely, like I said, they're dwindling for sure. And I mean, you're seeing now that there's just a lot of push of like companies really realizing that they can charge premiums now because people will pay for them.
Well, it's supply and demand. You know, I mean, it's like with my car. Like when I bought my car, there was only like 2 in the area, in the San Diego area, that were stick shift.
Yeah.
One was kind of clapped out. And I was like, I don't know. And it was a first gen. It was a 09. It was like first generation 370, right?
Yeah.
Higher miles, a little less dollar-wise, stick shift. But I had like these weird grill aftermarket fenders that the paint didn't match on the front. You know what I'm talking about? How the front fenders, how they take them off and put a kind of wide body fenders, but not really that wide body. But had like these weird grill fence by like the tire kind of thing.
Oh, they kind of doing the flared fender kind of thing where it's like
but it had like these like cut slit vents, like grill, like gills, kind of like in there on top of it. But the thing is, the color didn't match. The paint didn't even match. Yeah, and I think the back didn't match either, or something like that too. But it was like you got that one or mine. And so like it was like those are the only 2 choices in town in stick shift. Now plenty of automatics. Yeah. And mine was like one of 2. I mean, there's a few, like I want to go really far north. Maybe I could find something, or even out of state. But I didn't want to go out of state because the smog and the registration and all that headache. Like I didn't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted something in California that's been smogged and improved and all that stuff. And I didn't want to go very far either. So I don't want to drive to like freaking Sacramento or whatever. So just imagine going all the way to Sacramento and like find out the car's a piece of junk or whatever. Like you'd come back or whatever. And so like I wouldn't travel very far I want to find something local. And luckily I did, you know, and I think it was the better of the 2 for sale, at least here in town. And so that being said, I saw a lot of automatics for sale. And because and the guy at the dealership I bought it from, like he knew there wasn't many in town. He knew that a stick shift Z and a stick shift was very rare. People, highly desirable, I guess, so to speak. Yeah. That he didn't want to wiggle on the price. You know, he didn't want to come down on the price because he told me he knew that he didn't have anybody else.
Find somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but that being said, though, I had a hard time selling my Z, which is kind of weird. It was a stick shift, and it was in good condition, low miles for the most part, and yeah, I had a few low ballers, but it didn't sell as fast as I thought it was going to sell, and I don't know if I was asking too much, but I was asking what everybody else was asking for theirs for the most part. Like I just looked up what other ones are selling for, you know. I guess you never really know until you try to sell it yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, that goes with houses, anything. You know, the last house, trying to sell a thing, it's the same thing. You know, we think it's worth all this money because you compare it to everybody else's thing or car or house or whatever. And then you don't really know until you try selling it yourself and you find out. But I kind of wonder about that with being like a stick shift, like vehicles being stick shift and like the Z and different things. And I wonder how desirable they really are, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, you know, I want to hit you with a few of these. Like I said, I know there's a lot of new car buyers out there, but I want to hit you with a few cars on the used list that, you know, would be cool. Like, you know, not really breaking the bank, super expensive options for folks that like want something sporty that, you know, is on the used market that you can roll your own gears kind of deal.
Rowing the boat, rowing the gears.
Rowing the boat, rowing the gears. Yeah, if you're in the rowing boats, you can roll your gears too in your car and just keep it on going. But There was a few cars. I'm kind of poaching this a little bit because there was a list of some cars that some folks talked about, but there were three that like stuck out to me.
Okay.
That I was like, okay, like these are pretty cool. That I feel like folks, probably would be under a lot of folks' radar in terms of like, oh yeah, that really did come with a manual, and it offered something kind of unique. The one biggest one that like threw me for a loop that I kind of forgot about. Do you remember like the Pontiac Solstice in the in the Saturn
I just
skies?
saw one the other day. I just saw one. I saw one. I did a double take. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Miata. Oh, that ain't no Miata.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was cool because those were like super popular back then in a sense. Like they didn't sell as well as like nowhere near as well.
I remember
as
when they
Miata,
came out, I thought they were super slick looking. I thought like this is where Miata needs to be. Like this is like what Miata needs to do. Because I think back then, I think back then the Miata still had that bubbly like. I think they got rid of the pop-up headlights, but they still had like that bubble front end.
I think because early 2000s, like mid 2000s, I think that was after the pop-up. So it was like the NB maybe or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know the chassis models, but I do know that because early the first gen had the pop-up headlights for a while, and then they kind of went away from that, and then they got this new like kind of slick, chiseled, like very very sporty. The newer one looks very, very sporty.
I still really want like the last gen like Miata, like the RF, the one with the hard top removable convertible. That's actually like a dream car of mine. Just because
dream car for courage.
Dream car of mine. Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna set up a GoFundMe on this channel right now.
Yeah, dream car fun. Yeah, I've thrown out a few of those, which one of them is actually on this list too.
I should probably do. I wonder if it works if I put out a GoFundMe for like a cool car, like a show cool car. I mean, I kind of already have one, but maybe another one. Who knows?
We need we did have a cool car, like an actual cool cars with Chris ride that, so you don't have to put all the miles on the Z. You can have a different one. But no, that one kind of stuck out to me because it offered a lot of, wasn't as dynamically, sound as like the Miata. Like it probably didn't handle as well, but it had way more power than the Miata because everybody always says about Miatas that they're great, they handle well, but they're just sort of underpowered.
But they're so light though. They're like the old first gens were. The newer ones might have like all kinds of like safety crap on them and stuff.
I did see a comparison that they haven't deviated too far from their recipe still though. Even in comparison, like they size wise and different things like
and
that.
Weight wise and all that. I guess
they've been able to keep the ratios. Yeah,
because,
I could do some digging on that. But
because the weight ratio really makes a difference because you got 100 horsepower pushing around 2,000 pounds versus 100 horsepower pushing around 50 pounds or 150 or whatever it is. So what
power to weight becomes a thing. Yeah,
right. So what other cars do we think are kind of cool that come in a stick? You could buy in a stick shift.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about this. My opinion is very well known on the fourth gen F body Camaros and the Firebirds, but the later gen Camaros and then the WS6 Firebirds or Trans Ams, those cars are a lot of power for the money. Like,
and they come in stick shift, right? Six speeds, I believe.
6 speeds.
Or are they 5 speeds back then?
They 5 speeds, I believe.
Yeah, six speeds didn't come around to like the 2000s. It seems like.
Yeah, I'm double checking that, but I do think it was a 5-speed.
I know the Mustang was a 5-speed, I think, back in the day. They didn't come with a stick shift. I knew even with Jacob's car, his Mustang, I was looking at specs on that, and it did say it offered in an automatic or a 5-speed. So that was in 2005, but that was Ford. So I don't know if they're all playing the same game, but I just remember when the Z came out, it was in a 6-speed. It was kind of unique. I didn't really heard about a 6-speed before. Until I kind of jumped into the Nissan world, but
no, and so the WS6 actually had a 6-speed as well. So
okay,
and again, those things with the ram air hoods, they put out like somewhere between 330, 350 horsepower.
Holy smokes, man.
You can get them for like 15, 20 grand. Like that's a lot of car for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can, my favorite, because I still personally, I like the Camaro because I felt like it was a lot more subtle. It was still very different from anything that GM made in the past, very different from anything they made after it. It's really its own unique thing, but I just like it just because it's a little bit more subtle. But even those, like the Z28 SS was like a 1-year 96 model that had like 305 horsepower or something like that. But rear wheel drive, manual, you had T-tops. It was and those you can definitely get for, so even like around 10 to 12 grand, like for a really good one, and a lot of car
And
for the
a stick
money.
shift, most importantly.
And in the stick shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Cause usually
thing.
I'd say you don't really want to get an automatic in those either. Like they had 4-speed automatics, and they
4-speed
were,
automatics.
yeah, they were something
Whatever,
for sure.
4-speed automatic. I mean,
Yeah.
compared to a 3-speed automatic. I mean, I drove my dad inherited a Ford Maverick, the car, not the truck.
Yeah.
And it had
the automatic, yeah.
Yeah, and it had a 3-speed automatic in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going 1 to 2, and 2 kind of feels like it's power gear, and then 3, it's kind of just like cruising on the freeway.
Just like dry, yeah, like you.
But it's
like
not like
it's
not like low. It doesn't cruise at a lower RPM. It's almost like if you probably be in 4th gear in your car, but like on the freeway.
Oh, so you are actually turning pretty high.
Yeah,
RPM
I think
still.
so. But it didn't have a tax. I didn't know. I was just hearing the engine.
That was so. You mentioned that earlier too, and I had never really experienced that until and now it's been a little while, but I hadn't really experienced a car that like didn't have a tachometer until like years after I had like been driving a whole bunch of different cars.
Okay,
and I was like, I never even knew that was the thing. Like, and I get it.
Base model. My Ford Ranger had no tach either, and I would just run that engine out. I hear it running, I hear it revving. Oh, now it's time to shift.
I should probably shift. Yeah,
that's all I had really. And then you can play with it, and that's the thing about driving a stick shift for a while. You get muscle memory, you get used to driving that version. You kind of know the shift points. You kind of know. And I also was kind of eyeballing the speedometer. That's all you really have to go off of. And the same thing with that Mitsubishi I drove. The same deal. It had no tach, just the speedometer. So you had to like really. So for me, I didn't really know. Like I didn't really learn how to shift at shift points based on the RPM. It was kind of like hearing it and seeing what speed you're at is kind of when I was kind of judging my shift points. What I used to, learn how to drive a stick shift. So I can see having a tach really would help because you kind of can see RPMs going up, RPMs going down, that sort of thing. So what other cars are kind of cool that come in a stick shift you can buy today?
Yeah, so this one is actually, when you say it out loud, a lot of people really don't feel like, oh, this is like, this is way out there, way out of a lot of people's budget. But do you remember the Jaguar F-types, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like the V6 versions of those, actually you can get pretty cheap, and they came in a manual. You could get and they're quoted to be one
cheap,
of like the
what price you talking here?
About 20 to 30 grand, give or take. Which, I mean, you're getting a Jaguar, like, first of all, but you get a convertible and still has decent tech, like, not probably like not modern tech, like you're giving away some stuff. But you can
if you want to do Apple CarPlay, you can add that in there. I mean, I did that on the Mustang. You can do that kind of stuff. Backup camera, you can add that in there. Yeah. I mean, other than like Apple Car, like, okay, if you're going to add quote tech to a car that was pretty basic, what would you do? The Apple CarPlay? Or what else would you do?
That's really it. Like, if you got Apple CarPlay and
a backup
maybe
camera.
you can and a backup camera, like those are the two things really that I care about. Like,
and of course, air conditioning and like the power windows. But
hopefully, hopefully you have those.
Yeah, but there's some.
But if you're bare bones,
right, right, you got nothing. Then I mean, you deal with what you have. But I'm saying like you can pretty much add that to almost any kind of car, really. But when you start getting to like the fancier BMWs or the fancier Mercedes, they've got some tech that'll blow your mind. Like it's ridiculous. And I'm so funny. Side tangent here. I saw this video on Instagram. This guy was bragging about his Tesla, right? Yeah. And he says Tesla's the greatest car ever. It's so amazing because my Tesla can do this. And he's like hands off the wheel, and it's like doing the automatic parallel parking or whatever kind of thing. Like most kind of cars can do that these days. It's like parking itself or whatever. And it got me thinking, like if you don't want to drive, just order an Uber.
If your goal is to like make this like as effortless as possible and not drive, then get into I mean,
if that's like your goal, like bragging about not driving, it's like but
that's hilarious.
But anyways, what other cars you got that are like not crazy money, but like decent amount of
Yeah.
money you can pick up. I mean, talking like
Yeah.
a 308 Ferrari, maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah, 308 Ferrari. Vipers, actually, I wasn't even thinking about talking about Vipers, but you can get a Viper in the 30s right now, like 30s, 40s for like earlier gen Vipers.
we saw two of them that one day, remember?
Yeah,
And it was kind of crazy to see them. And I was sitting inside that one, and it's super, super tight in there. It's like super. I don't know if I had the seat. I should have put the seat back, but I think I had it. Whatever the guy had it, and like I don't know if I had much room to put the seat back. Anyways, it felt like it was pretty much back to the back wall.
It was pretty much back, yeah.
Back to the wall.
And I'm telling you, like those things, the earlier ones for sure. Like even though they had like I believe they had AC, but I've heard that like even with AC that it was like stripped down, like with the exhaust running off to the side. Like you get all that heat ends up kind of making its way into the cabin too.
Oh
so
yeah,
like
and you burn your ankle, you can step off the thing.
And also, if you do it wrong,
I heard those don't have traction control either. I heard they're pretty much. It's just
they are widow makers if there is
a widow maker.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a car I gotta buy. I do a Dodge Viper. That was kind of like my dream car for a long time, like posters and that kind of stuff. When they're kind of a new thing. And I think for me back then, I think it was like you didn't hear about a V10 that much,
Mm-hmm. That was the lore. That was the lore.
Yeah, and you heard about it, and I found out so later that Shelby was behind designing it and building it, and it was supposed to be originally like a Shelby product, but I guess somehow the Dodge. I don't know how the story all goes down, but yeah. So just a straight up like nuts, crazy, go for it.
It's just something that it's just like there's nothing that just like compares to the experience of really any Viper, but definitely like the early gen Vipers were something totally different. But
so what about BMW? Anything in BMW range?
Yeah, so you got like the this was one thing that actually was talked about. There was BMWs in general and like the M cars aren't underrated in the sense where like people don't know about them in terms of being great.
What is this
cars?
M car you speak of? Never heard of this brand before. BM what? BMW.
Like, what is this BM what? Like
I've never seen them use a turn signal.
That is true. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Don't get me started. That's my biggest pet peeve ever is like people just with the absolute confidence.
It's always a joke. Like it's like I found this BMW at 300,000 miles and pristine turn signals.
Yeah.
Never been used once.
Yeah. But the one thing on that front though is that the M cars, particularly like the M3s and stuff like that, the convertibles usually get overshadowed because enthusiasts tend to think that those aren't like the performance ones. Like if I'm gonna get an M3, I got to get the hard top manual.
Something you can. I was thinking like something you can race with. Can you really race with a convertible?
Well, that's the thing though. It's like that's kind of the reason why it ended up on that list was because a lot of people, to be totally honest, are probably not gonna really take it to the track like that. Like
or any really cool car for the most part. Like I don't know, other than you and your Elantra N, but I don't know how people actually like take their. They say they do. I mean, or whatever, but.
And if you live in California, to be honest, like I'm on the same kick too, is that like, people always talk about convertibles with like, they're less structurally rigid than like their coupe counterparts.
Are they though? I thought they were. I thought they had to do something under more suspension or more something.
They do, yeah. And a lot of cars, like, I mean, now it's really negligible unless you really, really are hard track driving a car. You with certain dynamics of cars, like with a convertible, there's certain, and even like if you hit really hard bumps, a lot of times, like you kind of can see like some shake, some cowl shake, they call it, where it's like just flex that a convertible has that a car with a roof doesn't. But I mean, living in California, like I just feel like everybody loves just like being able to go cruise in their sports car with the top down. Well, obviously, having a manual is a
truck. I call it convertible mode when I open all the windows and open the top and everything down and the thing. I call it convertible mode, whatever. And so, I mean, I love it. I always drive with the windows down on my Z. All the time. Like the only time I roll them up is like I'm on the freeway or something or whatever.
Or if it rains. Like
well, of course it's raining or if it's super cold outside, but even then I probably won't take my Z anyways. And then I like the feeling of having the exposure, I guess, of being in like, not saying convertible, but just being like out and about. It feels like you're riding a bike or you're just like on a motorcycle or something. It's just that
you're out in the world,
right? Like, you're not like in this little shell that's like closed off from everything and everyone. And so having convertible totally exposes you, by the way, when you're out there. You get sunburn out there in the convertibles. Trust me. We took one to LA, top down the entire way, and
Yeah.
didn't think about it. You're like, all fried or
And then
whatever.
you come back, yeah. The one thing actually I didn't really experience until the first time I drove a convertible for a while was that like you'd think kind of having like the top off and having the windows down and everything, being on the freeway, like you get a lot of breeze and you'd be comfortable. But like to your point is like one, you realize when you're on like anywhere near highway speeds, it's just a mess. Like, everything's the wind buffeting and everything is going around. And unless you have one of those really like, like decked out, like the Mercedes and things like that have like the wind scarves and stuff like that to help buffet the air. A lot of other convertibles don't have that stuff. But the other thing is like you still have to like use your AC and stuff like that, especially if it's like a warm day.
What are you talking about? That's like using your AC in the house. The windows open.
Well, I'm that guy, unfortunately.
Wow, that's counterproductive right there.
Yeah.
But
I even told you when I had my Z with the T-tops, I would drive around at night with the T-tops off with the heater on. I would do it.
Well, that I
do some weird things.
I did that too. Drive around the heater on the windows down, cruising around, bumping music. I get that. I've done that back in the day. I get that part. Whatever. But so you said M3s, convertibles, stick shift. What do you pick those up for? Like if you want to buy one today, like a decent one.
So I know, we don't get into all the chassis codes and stuff, but you're probably like the E36s and like the E46s, the like early 2000s ones. You can probably even get like the one that everybody loves, the E90 generation convertibles, the one with the V8. You can get those like as a convertible. You can get that for a better price than you would the coupes. For probably, like around 20 to 30 grand, like probably closer to 40 for like a nice one. But
no way.
I mean, that's a lot of car for 40 grand. Like for what I paid for like my N, like, I could be driving around an M3.
What'd you get your N for? Like 36?
It was MSRP was 37 when 37? I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard those are like as far as like performance cars, like in its class, it's gotta be the cheapest one, cheaper than the Acura and cheaper than the Honda, right?
Oh, it's way. Yeah, it undercuts them a lot. And, there's the argument that it's like, it's not as good as those in certain areas, but the Delta, that the name is one thing, but the Delta, people said like the Delta difference is not, it doesn't justify going from 37, 38 to 50 for a Type R. So, no, definitely big value add.
The Type Rs are 50 grand?
You're not getting in a Type R, if you throw taxes and everything, you're not getting in a Type R for anything under 50. Like it's those things are expensive.
In your opinion though, which one's faster though? I mean you can be biased, I know, I get it. But I'm saying like
there's so, I mean, it really is like a they like when they say like a driver's race type deal. Like it just depends on the exact scenario and like all of the things, but they're even. Like, the thing about the N that was just such a big value add to me is that it had so many things already done stock that I would have had to do.
Well, it's like me with my truck. My truck was the same way too. When I bought my truck, it had the tires, the wheels, the lift, the exhaust, all that stuff that I was out. I'm like, wow, and everything I'd want to do to the truck already, on it.
Already done. Yeah.
Brand new.
That was my really like saving grace with that car was because like, I mean, first thing I see everybody do when they get a Type R, they got to get exhausts, like, and they got to pay the premium for the valved exhaust, which I mean, that for the N to have a valved exhaust stock like that is and have, different drive modes and all of that stuff. Like, it was just it was a no-brainer when it came down to the comparison. I still love the Acura Type S, the Integra Type S. I just love the way those look. Like they just look a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
They probably like tech-wise, they probably have some interior-wise, they're definitely better in terms of interior quality.
Well, that's the thing. But, what draws people to a car? Is it the engine? Is it the power? Is it the speed? Is it the manual? Is it the tech? Yeah. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times it's the the gizmos. It's the gadgets. Mm-hmm. It's like this one charges your phone and makes phone calls and whatever and makes your coffee for you or whatever it does. But I think if you're if you like cars, it's like when I got into cars, it was like the engine, the stick shifts and that kind of stuff. Like as far as like all the bells and whistles is concerned, like it doesn't mean nothing to me. Like what about like my Z, for example, although it was like one of the only 2 Zs in town that had a stick shift, like my car is the base model. It is the bare bones base model. It has some, I mean, it has all the features you want. You know, I mean, there's a few features I wish it had, like the sync rev and the, you know, there's a couple things like that. But other than that, like, it's not a deal breaker, you know. So like,
there's the nice to haves, and then there's the, you know, the necessity. Like a lot of times, like we would, in this day and age, like, you know, I'd say like necessity wise, like, I mean, again, we like manuals, so that's like on our side of things. But you know, you would most likely want to have power windows. Like you wouldn't necessarily want to have crank
everything
windows.
comes with that these days. It's like
you could. There's some stuff where you could really go like real bare bones and say, give me the crank. I want arm workouts when I'm like, you know, rolling down my windows. And so
I thought I saw a video once of some vehicle. I forget what vehicle it was, but they did offer crank windows.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a bare bones F-150 or a bare bones like Maverick or Toyota or something. Maybe I don't know what it was, but it was something. It was like a truck-ish kind of vehicle. Yeah. And it had like a bare bones, like nothing. You could get like crank windows or whatever kind of thing. And so I had those forever. Once I got to power windows, like, my gosh, we're missing my whole life. You know, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing.
This is what this is what it's about.
Oh my gosh. You know, having to reach over and crank the window down on a hot day and then have to like park and roll them back up and have to like push a button and have it done for you. Oh my gosh. It's so amazing. But, you know,
I don't need a button to open my glove compartment. like a separate button, like within, and actually not even now, like some cars have it within the screen. Within, like it's like you have to go into
like the glove box app.
Yeah, you got to like go into the infotainment screen and like open.
Hang on, officer! I got to update my glove box app before I can get my registration.
But the whole car needs to update before I can even access this. Like, you know, it's stuff like that. Like, I mean, again, heated and cool seats. Like, you know,
my truck has
great
that.
To have.
I don't even like. I mean, when on a cold day, I did the heater thing, but it gets hot so quickly. You're like, okay, I'm over it already. You know, I don't like. I don't know, man. I mean. Some people are super sold on that stuff. Like that is their whole thing. That's probably why Mercedes-Benz sells cars is for that stuff.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's just really kind of identifying like what camp are you in? Like, is it really about the features or is it about more of the driving experience? Which if it's more of the driving experience, I feel like, you know, we're on the same page where there's certain things that is nice to have, but they're not going to be deal breakers to consider that car if it doesn't have all of the latest tech and, you know, all of like the infotainment integration and all of those things. Like those are just pluses on top of what would already make you interested in the car, which again, you know, to your point, the Z is just, it's this focus. It really is like a focused, like analog sports car that, you know, again, like we talked about it was kind of looked down upon, like, you know, at least the 370s because, like it just hasn't been updated in so long and it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. But now people are just realizing, like you were saying, they're flocking more to the 370s over the new Zs. Is you're not getting the same experience from the new Zs because they kept that analog recipe for so long. And now people are realizing if you're really into cars and you're really, you know, you really enjoy driving, that's more of what you're looking for, to be honest. And
it's also a classic touch too, and you still get fairly like, I mean, you get airbags and fairly modern type stuff or whatever. It's not like you're jumping into like a Z31 or something. You know, I did see one today, by the way. I had to do a double take.
Z31.
Yeah, someone today down by Mission Beach, and But yeah, so I mean, you know, I love my car. It is clunky. It's not perfect. It's not as smooth. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's not like an easy car to drive, you know, and that kind of stuff. But it's a fun car to drive. And when you get going, rolling through the gears, and you're using the clutch, and you know you can hold the gear longer, and you can shift it, and it's just a fun mechanical feel to drive in the Z that you can't get in an automatic. Who knows what?
Yeah. And actually, one thing on that too is that because the Z was actually on that list too that they were sharing of like being one of those cars that they were actually referring to the 350s because a
Yeah.
lot of times people they have this rep with 350s and a lot of times people are like I don't want to deal with that because it's like it's got this reputation now, but they definitely are bargains in terms of what you can
If
get.
you
But
can
I
find
think
one that's not clapped out, yeah.
yeah, the 370s I think still fall in that category too. But I started to think like, oh yeah, but there's like the other Z's and things like that. But the big thing that I think makes the 350 and the 370 great choices is that on top of being just great, still focused sports cars, it's not that hard to keep those cars running and maintain.
Yeah. I mean, those
Versus
VQs are
like
pretty reliable engine for the most part.
yeah. Versus like the 300s, like the 300 ZXs and
The
Z31 or
ones, or
32.
go beyond that, the was it like 260, 280?
Yeah, like I mean, that you're getting into a round with the 260s and 80s where they're just really old cars in general. But like the Z32, Z31s, even though they're great cars and I love them, like especially if you got a twin turbo like Z32, that car is not an easy car to keep running. If you don't, if certain things start to slip in a maintenance schedule and you start having issues, it is not easy to keep those cars on the road as much as I love them. And that was I think the thing that made people more gravitate to the 350s and 370s is that those again the VQs have been really really honed in over those years.
But you can
And
damage those too. You can like I've
you
seen
know
them like, not oil changed at all. And
but you have to do a lot, like you have to do a lot to really get
and
them.
and they got their issues. And no car's perfect. They got their
you know,
issues, and that kind of thing. You have to be aware of these issues and make sure you're on top of checking oil and I'm religiously I'm checking all the fluids. Every single time I get in the car.
yeah
I'm checking the oil. I'm checking the brake. Where the brake oil, where the brake fluid sits, is where the clutch fluid and the brake
got
fluid.
that blinker fluid.
Yes,
Good.
my blinker fluid is low because the guy cut off told me it was low with his middle finger. That middle finger means add more blinker
That means
fluid.
your blinker fluid is low.
That's the universal sign for blinker fluid low. I get it, but no, like I always check all those fluids and I get it. I mean, the car relatively has fairly lowish miles compared to others that I've seen for sale. Like I was looking at Z's. I don't know. I was on a kick. I was looking at 370s and I saw some. Well, I know there was one I saw for sale, and I told another guy I work with who's interested in buying one, and I told him it's for sale. And it's a stick shift too, by the way. It's in Imperial Beach. I saw it down there, and instead of advertised as a Nismo, when you look at the pictures, it's not a Nismo. I mean, you know what Nismos look like. It's just not a Nismo. And so, but it's advertised stick shift. It's got a stick shift. I think it was an 11. I forget what they wanted for it. It was a little less than I paid for mine, but had higher miles, like about 140 or whatever. But when I see like 370s with like in the 140, 150 range of miles, I haven't seen anything for sale though that's had like closer to 200 range. I'm sure they exist. People have them, but it was funny. I did see one. It was a 19 or a 20 370Z in the Temecula area. Shout out. But it had like way high miles on it. It had like, I'm gonna say like 130 or something on it. And I'm like,
but
wow.
For 2018 or 19,
I think it was a 19. I think it was a 19 or 20. But anyways, yeah, I'm like, gosh, maybe because they live in Temecula, they got to commute to San Diego or LA every day with a thing.
Yeah.
That could be a possibility. I think it was an automatic, which might make that drive a little easier than shifting through traffic. But I was kind of thinking that people do use these cars for like commuting or whatever too. They don't use it just for fun stuff, So it is possible.
But it is usable.
Yeah, it is possible.
To an extent. Yeah.
Well, it's possible to get like a lot of miles on these cars. I guess with any car, really, it is possible to get a lot of miles on anything.
Yeah.
But I just like something like this, like the Z. Like when I bought my other Z had low miles-ish. This one averaged about 12,000 a year, which is, I mean, it's not low. It's probably average. But if you live like anywhere in Temecula, or if you commute anywhere, you're probably doing closer to 15,000 a year, I would think, on average, maybe more.
Yeah.
So it's probably the lower end from that standpoint. But I don't know, man. Like I try to keep miles low in the car, but I just drive the thing every chance I get. I try to drive the thing, probably because I like rolling the gears and going through the thing and just that feeling you get when you drive the thing and you're revving it and you're getting on the freeway and you're just going for it. Man, it's great.
Yeah.
Great times, man. Well, Courage, I know it's late and I know that this has been fantastic. Where can everybody find your amazing YouTube channel?
Yeah, well, look out for that how to drive stick video coming up pretty soon. But the Driven Dad on YouTube, on Instagram, check it out.
I will put links in the
Always
show notes for sure.
for sure. Yep, yep. So
And you can find everything here at coolcarswithchris.com. Links in the down below in the show notes, down below, however they do it, you know, it goes. And you be safe and don't pop that clutch, grind that clutch. Clutch jobs are expensive. I've done it myself, or paid for it myself, I should say. Don't drink and drive, and be safe, be legal, and we'll catch you on the very next episode. Don't you go anywhere.